So hello, everybody. Welcome to Digital Hollywood at CES. Today, we will be talking about XR, AR, and how it impacts retail, e-commerce, and the consumer experience. My name is Billy Newell. I'm the CEO of SparksWorks, Inc. We're focused on making AR publishing a simple experience for marketing, brands, and for advertisers. We have a great panel with us today, and it is not possible to talk about XR and AR without talking about the metaverse. So we'll add the metaverse to our conversation today. And for those who haven't participated in our panel before, our panel in the past has focused on coming solutions and the future, but today we're super excited that we'll be talking about tools, services, and opportunities that are available today. The metaverse, a simple explanation, you can say that is the extension of the internet. But from a different perspective, you can say that the metaverse is about people, it's about ideas, it's about connecting, and therefore is about many, many new opportunities. Since I mentioned that we're going to be talking about what is possible today, I thought that the best place to start is to talk about the tools and services that can enable XR experiences right now. And what best person to talk about that than Tony Parisi from Unity.
Hey, Bill, how you doing?
How are you?
Doing okay in my San Francisco
before you get
perch.
started, if you can do like a quick intro, because since we only have 45 minutes, I figure I'd let you guys do a quick intro as we talk about things. But please go ahead.
That's great, Bill. I like the format. Yeah, so I'm head of AR and VR ads and e-commerce at Unity. We're the premier platform for 3D content creation, forged in gaming, now being used in many, many other industries. My purview is how our technology stack and cloud solutions can be used to power retail, marketing, e-commerce using the power of real-time 3D. And so, yeah, question being around the tools. I mean, that's a great setup to just quickly talk about Unity a little bit and just say that's our whole focus is on enabling creators, regardless of what industry they're in. I mean, it started in gaming, like I said, but our mission when we wake up every morning and look at this thing in the wall, at least in theory, we posted it on the wall, it's about making the world a better place by enabling more people to create. And create doesn't just mean make the stuff, it means to be able to succeed in business, whatever your business may be. If you're a game developer, that ultimately means making money by either selling your game or monetizing through advertising. If you're in other industries, it's success through other metrics. And so, to us, the creation tools for this coming metaverse, and in particular around retail and some of the other industries we're going to talk about, it's all about making it easier for non-technical people to create. And that's mostly what our mission is about these days, is to enhance our tool set, which has been built for programmers to be able to enable more digital artists who are comfortable with maybe DCC tools, but don't know the C# language or programming environments. And then in other industries like automotive, it may be through converters that take CAD data, from rich CAD systems and make them available for real time for a variety of applications. So, that's how we're leaning in, whether you're talking, full social metaverse or simple 3D e-commerce website. It's all about making creation simple and democratized.
Thank you, Tony. And we're going to dig deeper on that, as I'm sure that everybody in the panel is getting the same kind of questions from their clients, which are more about the logistics, right? So how are we going to, for example, get all of our inventory of 100,000 items into 3D? How would it scale? Can it be automated? Can we use 3D scanning? Can we use photogrammetry? There's a lot of those things. But before you get to choose your tools and what services you need, you also need to have a strategy. And it's one of the things that I always say is perhaps the hard part. I always say, we're focused on making AR easy. And when I say that, I'm talking about the publishing part, not about the creative part. So with that, I'll segue to you, Silke, who are always working with clients and helping with the digital transformation. So now that people are looking at the metaverse as a play of sharing ideas, concepts, and opportunity, How do you advise your clients now? How do you usher them into this new medium, which is very real and is producing real results right now?
Thank you, Billy, and good to see everyone here again. Yeah, Silke Meixner. I am a digital transformation strategist who helps operationalize all of these great ideas for lots of B2C, B2B, as well as healthcare and life science companies. And the questions that you are posing are very real in terms of monetizing how AR, VR is brought to the market, how fast, how efficient. The other big question is, how do I work when I'm a company and I'm in charge of marketing, or I'm in charge of IT? The different functions have to work together to bring sometimes older legacy technology to work together, as well as vast amounts of data. I work quite a bit now in healthcare and life science, and as you can imagine, data and privacy concerns are a big deal when you think about implementing AR solutions. And then last but not least, those who have heard me talk about this in the past, how do I de-risk this journey from just beginning the augmented reality journey in some companies, and others the topic is more advanced? How do I make sure that I go from a smaller proof of concept into scaling quickly is what I find myself talking with clients every day now. And there's no single magical formula, but as Tony was already broaching the topic, it's about the ease of using the technology. So proof points early, and they might be small, but they might be very powerful, are needed for the internal alignment on resources, funding, people, as well as bringing new and fresh ideas to the marketplace for the brands who are using it. The other part is careful planning. I used to help with roadmaps that were 3, 6, 9, 12 months. Now they're more 3 months and another 3 months and another 3 months. So we think in quarters. And last but not least, the measurement of success also has shifted from purely looking into details that were more on a technical side to what I would call the more social, softer side of metrics that are also about how did the technology advancement that a company brings to the market, how did it help build brand loyalty or trust? When you think about healthcare, life science, as well as retail, trust in the brand and what you're using as technology to interact has to be great. So those are certainly the topics swirling around for this year and many, many more years to come.
Thank you, Silke. And this is interesting because it applies to everything we're going to talk about. So let's dig in a little deeper. Eric, we have an opportunity to chat last week about many of the uses of XR in terms of practical solutions. So no dragons flying over a building, but really things that can scale, things that can help commerce and other things. So Eric, I was hoping that perhaps without mentioning any names, you can share some of the experiences that you're implementing, not necessarily perhaps as sexiest, although you can, but the things that are more utilitarian and show a little bit what AR can do for businesses.
Yeah, so my role at Media Monks is kind of it's a fun place to be, where I get one foot in sort of traditional media, entertainment and whatever. My purview is the future of entertainment as kind of broad as that can be, but the fun stuff is in sort of immersive, XR, metaverse. It's all the fun acronyms: AI, NFT, ML. It's all the fun stuff. And what we're seeing is kind of a resurgence in these technologies, initiation with a lot of brands trying to get back into this space. I think there was a bit of a wave or a gold rush for a bunch of years as brands tried to explore it and kind of figure it out. And they just kind of ran into the sand. They just couldn't really figure out how to monetize, how to scale it. But I think, and sadly, I think the pandemic played a large part of this in the sort of the resurgence of these technologies, or the acquaintance with some of these technologies. And so we're seeing a lot of brands now that are recommitting and committing at quite sophisticated levels in terms of e-com strategy, scaled retail strategy. And we're using XR to help promote this. So yeah, without naming names, we're working with most of the major sporting leagues now and trying to figure out what a XR strategy is for bringing fan engagement back, not just in the stadium, but at home. How do you connect those through a digital layer? And it's not just a marketing or gee whiz sort of gimmick. It's actually trying to drive ticket sales, e-com, virtual drops, e-merch. It's kind of all the things. And so the strategies now have to be much more robust. It's not just about getting the headline or promoting it day of. It's actually building sort of long-term and repeated crowd engagement, or and driving the bottom line really is kind of what we're seeing. And we're seeing it being successful now because people are frankly locked at home. They're now exploring these technologies much more readily than I think they would have even just 2 years ago. And so we're seeing that across sports. We're working with a major award telecast to bring them into the metaverse. We're doing an entire award show in the metaverse now on Roblox here, which is kind of weird, but also really, really fun. So getting to play with that, and just kind of real-time technologies writ large sort of rule the day right now because of their ability to like bring in audiences, engage and respond, actually in real time. These are hugely meaningful. And I think the audience is starting to expect that, everything's got to be interactive, instantaneous, readily available. And so we're just seeing the brand start to recognize that and really, finding some fun ways to capture that with the audiences.
Thank you, Eric. That's great to hear. There's certainly a confluence of technologies that is enabling now the metaverse and XR. Edge computing, 5G, which is ahead of schedule. So maybe the pandemic didn't hurt everything. It certainly propelled the digital solutions as we need them more than ever. You raise a lot of interesting things in terms of the metaverse and audience and live events. And I think this is a good segue to ask you, Rafaela, what do you see coming in the world of gaming at Epic with all of the things that Eric mentioned? Certainly many of them open intriguing opportunities in the world of gaming, and I'm curious to see what you guys are looking at and what you have in store for 2022.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me. Happy New Year, everyone. So my name is Rafaela Camera. I'm Head of Brands and Advertiser Solutions for Unreal Engine at Epic Games. So partnerships and special projects with brands, with advertising agencies, and with XR companies. Kind of like connecting also your question to Tony's intro at the very beginning. So we have a few different sides to our company when it comes to helping creators build for the metaverse, which just like Unity, we really take seriously to the point that we provide our tools for free to download and to use, including assets, and we even provide money to help different creators build their metaverses. But in general, we have the tools. So Unreal Engine to build that, but also with that, MetaHumans creators to create digital humans, Twinmotion for architecture, and a bunch of other ones. In addition, though, also I think that's important to mention the libraries of 3D assets. So we have 5 different libraries with Unreal Engine Marketplace, with ArtStation, Sketchfab, Quixel Megascans, and also now some of the 3D assets directly in Fortnite and Fortnite Creative. The API is to then connect all these different worlds and really make sure that you can carry your identity and your items, so to speak, across different worlds. And then, of course, the games, as you were talking about. So yes, we have different games built on Unreal Engine from different creators that you can access on our game store, but also our Fortnite Creative, Rocket League, Fall Guys, and a bunch of other ones. And I think what's been interesting for us is right before the break, we actually launched The Matrix Awakens, which is an Unreal Engine 5 experience. It was built by some of the original Matrix creators and Epic creators, and it really is an incredible, interactive, and photorealistic world. It brings together cinematic and gaming in a completely different way. And it creates this vast open world. I think we have about 260 kilometers of roads, 512 kilometers of sidewalks, 45,000 parked cars, of which about 35,000 are you can drive, you can get into and drive. So it's, and I can go into it a little bit more afterwards if you want, but it's really this idea of being able to show how we can bring AI tools from micropolygon geometry systems to lumen and lighting and digital humans into an environment that really starts blending gaming and cinematic and real and photorealistic in a different way.
Wow, Rafael, I had to unmute myself first. That's really exciting. As a gamer, I can't hardly wait. But you mentioned some things that are really interesting, and I think they're super important for the long run, which is portability. You know, the ability to be able to play a game, for example, in the device that you're in or in different platforms, or for your inventory or things that you collect to be able to use and leverage. And all of these things always trigger in my head thoughts about all of the multiple possibilities for new business opportunities. So with that, I will segue to Travis, who has been patiently waiting. And Travis, I'd love for you to tell our audience about what you're doing with historical states and stuff. But what I want to ask you the most, based on what the panel has shared so far, is, for example, if you can tell us about the value that you see, for example, on something that is very much in vogue, on NFTs associated with XR or AR into the metaverse.
Sounds great. Well, thank you very much. My name is Travis Kloyd, and like everybody here, I'm an explorer of technology. And I wear two hats, really. One, on the educational side, I'm the global futurist at Thunderbird School of Global Management, which is #1 in the world, part of Arizona State University, which is one of the most innovative universities in the country for the last 7 years, #1. And on the enterprise side, I'm the CEO of a company called Worldwide XR, which is a partner company to CMG, Celebrity Management Group, which has been around for the last 40 years, representing a lot of historical iconic figures, such as Jackie Robinson, whose jersey's behind me, and James Dean. And so, you know, we do a number of things. When it's focused on XR, we use XR as just another level of immersive storytelling for some of the historical iconic figures that we represent, same as a book or a movie or a documentary, except we are focused on mixed reality and augmented reality and virtual reality. And as just as you mentioned, Bill, we've been doing a lot of NFTs. We recently worked with the US military and Space Force, where we took one of our clients, Neil Armstrong, and did a licensing deal for a satellite launch earlier in the year. We have a few more coming up with Hedy Lamarr and Sally Ride and Amelia Earhart. Tony, you'd be happy to know we're using Unity to build digital holograms of satellites and spaceships that we've sold as NFTs. Recently did one with James Dean in the Porsche car, and also Rafaela, to you and what you guys are doing. We're using your toolkit and your technology to create digital humans for Jackie Robinson and James Dean and some of the historical iconic figures. And we look at NFTs as it's just another medium. It's almost like doing a commercial. You know, companies and brands do a dozen or so commercials a year. We envision doing lots of different NFT collections and drops as it relates to all of our iconic historical figures and brand partners that they have. And so it's just another avenue for us to bring their legacy into the limelight.
I'm even happier to hear about Hedy Lamarr, to be honest. I mean, there's a really intense story there around her. I would watch the documentary if folks haven't, and it kind of cuts across creator rights and gender issues and a whole bunch of other stuff. So that's really awesome to hear that you're doing that, and in Unity. Thank you for that. Shout out, Travis.
Sounds great. Thank you. Yeah, we've got a rocket launch later in the year. We're doing not a rocket launch, but a satellite launch with Hedy Lamarr's estate in Space Force and SpaceX. So we'll get into that later.
As you can see, where all of the technologies, the services, everything is interweaved. NFTs opens a lot of interesting opportunities, I think, and I think we're only scratching the surface. You know, people have focused on the obvious, which is to make digital art pieces, for example, unique and valuable by combining it with an NFT. But there are many other potential uses for NFTs. So I wanted to ask it's an open question. I'll start with you, Tony, since I haven't talked to you for a while, but everybody please feel free to chime in. So we talk about tools, we talk about what's going on in entertainment, on facilitating services and combining with other technologies. The metaverse is certainly the catalyst to push XR forward. How do you see from the Unity perspective, Tony? Are you guys gearing up for example, browser delivery, or do you want to remain agnostic, browser and applications? How do you see delivery happening? I think it's going to happen both ways. And I think volumetric and other technologies are going to be a key part of enabling AR in the metaverse for commerce and other things. But from what you're seeing from Unity, where do you see us making headway this 2022 with actual solutions and services?
Yeah, so you won't be surprised to hear me say that I can't really talk specifically about a product if we haven't announced it yet, so I won't. But in general terms, I would definitely say that you've heard myself and many Unity execs at this point talk about how we feel, similar to what you said in kicking this session off, Billy, that the metaverse is the next evolution of the internet. And so with that in mind, that just, some things fall out of that math. Like, you need ubiquitous access. You need people to be able to have these experiences regardless of what kind of hardware they're running on, which operating system they're using, and so on. So that is a starting point, is just consistent with our philosophy in general. And if you look at the history of what Unity's done to support platforms, we support as many of them as technically possible, pretty much all of them in terms of game consoles, mobile platforms, browsers. And so you can expect to see us continue to support whatever platforms reach consumers that help our creators succeed. I mean, at the end of the day, it all just sort of adds up to the same thing, which is like, if someone wants to make something, they need to distribute it to the correct audiences. And in the metaverse, that's going to be everyone. So, watch the space in terms of specifics. But again, you can imagine that we're going to try and power as many of these things for as many creators to reach as many consumers as possible. That said, that's a tall order, and there's a lot to be done there. So what you'll probably see out of Unity in any company is just a series of evolutionary steps, incremental, and then at some point, we'll look back and go, whoa, that happened. So you're going to see a lot of gradual product improvements across a lot of different areas from companies like Unity. Rafael, you might want to jump right on top of that. I see you're unmuted, but yeah, I mean, imagine.
Tony is giving it to me to talk about our products. Similar to Tony, it's difficult for us to talk about things that we have coming up. However, we, since it's public knowledge, very soon this year, we're going to be fully releasing our Unreal Engine 5, and with that, the new, the actual exact version of the MetaHuman Creator. And to your point, Billy, the way that we've always looked at the metaverse is really an extension of anything that already exists and people are using the most, which is mostly web and mobile, but supporting and making sure that those same assets and experiences are not only high fidelity, but can be used and reused across all different types of platforms, including VR, including AR glasses, including all of that. So I think and that all of this can be built at scale to build things that are massive. I think coming from a gaming environment, sometimes the problems that we have in our own games, and Fortnite being our own baby, almost our book that we write every day, as we solve for those, then those are some of the same problems that other creators or other brands or other companies might have. So those same tools that we then develop for us to solve our problems, we then give away to brands and to creators to be able to build their own. So with UE5, I think what's really interesting is, as I was saying, Nanite, that really allows to you can create hundreds of thousands of instances of different experiences that then can be rendered dynamically, and only the sections of the mesh that are needed to render the scene are loaded at that specific moment. So that allows you to understand how you can really create massive experiences at extreme detail and still be able to do it and not have problems. Lumen is our fully dynamic real-time global illumination that really allows you to change lighting, shadows in high fidelity just with a toggle, just to name a few. And obviously the MetaHuman creators for digital humans, those are some of the major things. The last thing that I will say is I think what you'll see from us is opening up more and more for different brands the ability to live and connect with consumers directly in games and in our social entertainment platforms. We don't even call them games, and bring those to the next level.
Thank you. And you just touched on something that is so key, I think, to everything that is XR, which is social and communications. I think that one of the things that have made augmented reality and all of these versions, mixed reality, etc., interesting is that it opens up communication and participation, which is a big difference with the more immersive individual experience of virtual reality, which I love for other things. So do you see, and anybody can chime in, how do, so games content, right, is going to be richer because you'll have, you know, volumetric capturing and other things that perhaps will allow even for the users to be inside the game. But what about the experience around it? How do we move the needle, or what is available to move the needle in retail and in advertisement and communicating and making sure that we fulfill that marketing idea that everything, the experience is around the user, right? So I was hoping that you guys can perhaps anybody feel free to jump in. And how are we doing that? How are we addressing accessibility, portability, the ability to jump from one device to the other, and the experience before and after the game, or the content if it's not a game? Anyone? Am I naming names, Silke?
Yeah, I think the gaming uses are what advances us. What Rafaela is sharing, as well as others, is amazing, and it's, you know, what a gamer's heart beats faster when you hear that. What came to mind for me was also a little bit more basic, but nonetheless crucial and essential are uses. I come across a lot of healthcare, pharma, and life science examples where a very basic device such as a tablet, or maybe the you know, glasses or a mobile phone, are used to make humongous strides in how we care for healthcare needs that are in households across the world, right? So a couple of use cases are around, you know, AR assistance for people with memory problems, for example, and their caretakers. There's platforms that are exploring that both in the UK and US that help people, you know, remind their way around the house, to maybe also use the communication, Billy, that you are talking about, to talk to the patient as well as the caretaker. And then I think we spoke about a couple minutes ago, Travis, you were talking about education as well as commerce. The ability for us to communicate with the device and augmented reality as another component sometimes doesn't have to be the most amazing high fidelity experience, as long as we are getting used to it and we are starting to make it part of our seamless metaverse the real world as well as the augmented reality. So my eye is towards finding more cases where we have both the very advanced end, and I'm looking to you gaming folks to really push the envelope here for other industries and other use modalities to benefit from it as well.
Thank you. Hey,
If I can
go
if I
ahead.
can add on to that, I think, and I know even Tony and I were talking about it in a different panel, maybe a couple months back. One of the
That's all Raphael and I do. We're just on panels.
yeah. No, that's not true. We also go drinking, but sometimes. But one of the major shifts, I think, you know, when I try to define the metaverse, what is it? The next version of the internet. But if there is one thing that is very different, is in the role that the user itself, himself or herself has in it. And it's this idea of, we call it digital self-expression, being able to be in an experience and be yourself, carry yourself, change yourself, bring elements with you to kind of like do that, and then have these social interactions that are, for us, a little bit more entertainment based. So if you look at it that way, there is a great opportunity for brands to rethink the way that they present themselves by almost having the user own the specific product or the brand itself and carrying it with them into the metaverse, versus having the brand just go there and setting up a store and then having the consumers go in and passively, almost passively, kind of like you know, interact with the product, but not making it theirs.
Okay, thank you. One of the things that I have learned in working with AR and XR and thinking of the metaverse is that we often think about going into the digital world, like when you put a VR set, like we're going in. But actually with XR, it works both ways. Sometimes you bring digital things into the real world, which is the other way around. So I'm curious, so Travis, for example, with the things that you're doing with historical society or on the educational side, are you looking at bringing XR experiences into the real world? I'll give you just a point in case. I made a haunted house that was actually the size of a real house. So you actually had to have it in a park and go and walk through it, which is a different experience than sitting with your Oculus Quest in your couch. So I'm curious of how you see things evolving. Do you see more real world experiences where you bring digital and you're actually participating, like if it was a holodeck, or you go more to the Quest side?
Combination. I mean, I see it kind of being a little bit more real world savvy versus, you know, more of a virtual thing, even though we recently did a really nice Quest experience with Patrick Mahomes and the NFL recently that's on the Quest 2, where you're in a VR experience and you can snap the ball and draw back and throw it and pass it, which is pretty incredible. But when it comes to the historical icons, it's always based on relevance and what is the objective of your campaign? How are you going to deliver it to audiences? You know, and from an education perspective, you got to worry about the digital divide. What devices do people have? And obviously over the course of the next 12 to 24 months, we're going to have a number of different devices hit the market, and it's going to make it easier for mainstream audiences to participate in those activations. But again, it just goes back to, what is our objective? You know, what brands are we working with? What rights are we focused on? Who's the audience? Where are we going to deliver the activation of the experience? And then we kind of dictate how we build it. What toolkits do we use? What HMDs do we use, and so on and so forth. But it's a, you know, I see it combination of digital and physical. You know, and that's the great thing about the metaverse and all the different hardware devices that are going to come out in the future, is it's going to open up a number of different ways of storytelling and delivering, you know, experiences to the masses.
You mentioned activation.
Billy, sorry.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, go
there's
ahead.
been a hearty and energetic debate between, you know, fully immersive VR purists, folks on the other end who think it's really going to be, you know, especially when we're thinking about the metaverse in the future, it's really going to be more about AR, heads up, maybe with glasses as we get there. And sometimes the debate gets pretty heated, but I imagine most of the people on this panel are somewhere in the middle and pretty balanced, like Travis was saying. I mean, to me, when I look at all this stuff, it's the beauty of it is it's all immersive content. It's all real-time 3D, making our lives better, hopefully, and helping us communicate better and express ourselves better. And which form it takes and which devices does very much depend on what you're trying to do, as Travis was hinting at. I see Eric unmuting. I'd love to hear where most of your action's been lately with the monks and this realm. But I got to believe there's a lot of AR with a little bit of VR sprinkled in.
Fun. Yeah, and it sort of a couple things sort of triggered me in good ways. I always have to remind myself that we're a very rarefied crowd in that, you know, we're deep down the rabbit hole on all these technologies and leading, you know, these innovations and integrations. But, you know, most of my day job is dealing with consumers that have never put on a VR headset, and they might know what the acronyms mean. And so there's a level of like education and onboarding and ubiquity that has to kind of happen. And it's happening. It's actually, I sort of give like Snap Lenses and Spark AR a lot of that credit for just like training an entire generation on what these technologies can do. And they don't laden it with the jargon or the acronyms. It's just lenses and put a cat nose on your face. And it's very simple, but that's actually doing sort of the Lord's work in terms of training a generation. And you need that for these technologies because you can either be supply side or demand side, right? And I feel like, you know, Unity, Epic, you know, Facebook, they're doing this supply side version of it, of getting the tools ready for that ubiquity. And they've come so far, so fast, but you still need an audience that knows how to engage, expects it, demands it, knows what the benefits are. And I do think of it as a spectrum. We are seeing a lot more VR these days than we did just a couple years ago, but it's for very specific things. VR conferences, we've now hosted multiple proper conferences in VR, you know, shipping headsets. It's hard to find hundreds of headsets on short demand. But then, you know, AR is kind of everywhere now, you know, from the Spark AR and lenses all the way to, you know, bespoke apps and, you know, all the various, you know, experiences we're seeing with brand and sport leagues. I think it's here, and it's just becoming more and more robust or full in the spectrum of experiences you can have with these technologies.
Yeah,
Can I riff off Eric just for 1 second? Sorry, Rafaela, but it ties back to something Silke hinted at earlier, which is that, you know, we get all tied up in production value, especially us in the you know, companies enabling with game tech. But most people are experiencing this stuff, as Eric was saying, through Snap Lenses, simple filters, really low production value stuff that is super fun and super engaging for people. And lenses like that in the billions being consumed, literally in the billions of views. Yep. So we should not let the perfect be the enemy of the good in terms of production value and technology. Like Rafael, I'm sure you carry on.
Yeah, no,
make that point.
Snap basically in a way invented AR, even though they didn't invent it, but that's really where AR was and still is the majority of it. But this year, even with the more even telecom companies starting to think and put together plans to unveil AR glasses of different kinds, and with that also making sure that there is content to kind of like use or experience in these AR glasses. I think that will move things a little bit further if the plans stay as they are. And you know, Snapdragon and the Snapdragon Spaces and what they've done with that, it's fantastic and it's great. So we're even working on a project to put together a specific book and bring it to life in AR glasses with Snapdragon Spaces, Jim Henson's book, so The Storyteller. So we're looking forward to that.
So thank you for bringing up Snap, because Snap is a good example of, you know, how to start to get the consumers, you know, familiar with what XR can do. And starting simple it definitely makes a lot of sense. But we have other examples of AR already taking place and becoming standards. For example, view in my place, you know, like seeing your furniture, you know, at your home and see if it works. As you may recall, IKEA started that, but it has become a standard with the really big companies. So Amazon has it, and IKEA, of course, has it, and a couple others. But guess what? There are hundreds of thousands of businesses that need that capability, but can't really invest on creating an ecosystem. And I think that's where the real opportunities for the metaverse comes. I'll give you an example. For us, we integrate all of our technologies in a platform to do exactly what you said, to make it easy to publish. So we support ARKit, ARCore, Wikitude, and all of the technologies surrounding, converters for 3D and the things that you guys have talked about. And that means that a lot of businesses in Cincinnati, where there's a lot of manufacturing, are going to be able to have the same functionality that Amazon, because the use of our platform is almost free. It's not free, but because it's predicated in use. And like us, there are other platforms. 8Wall is doing great things over the browser. We're both leveraging Unity technologies, Web GL, and some of the things that the folks at Epic Games have. So it's all an ecosystem, right? And it reminds me that ecosystems work because you have services and companies, they're all working together and they all in a way depend on each other. And that's why it's called an ecosystem. So there's a lot of very interesting things happening. And all of this, what is exciting for me in this panel, is all of these tools that we're talking about are available now. If you go to Unity, or if you go to Unreal, if you check out MediaMonks or the stuff that Travis or Silke are doing, you will see that all of these tools, the principles, scaling, acquisition of users, all of this is happening now and it's real. So we have still a few more minutes. And I was hoping that perhaps we can go around and talk a little bit. What would be your best advice for companies that are trying to decide how to leverage XR as a vehicle to the metaverse, or XR in the metaverse? In any order you like. Ladies first.
I will take a first step real quick. I think the key to success for any company starting on the journey or advancing it is to be able to identify, based on your target audience, whether it's consumers, customers, or patients, have usefulness meet joy and ease of use, right? And that combination, as you are bringing your products and services out there across the ecosystem, and that demand, that pull from the marketplace, will help with the monetization part that we talked about earlier. So make it fun and easy, and therefore also ubiquitous. Maybe start with simpler technology or simpler devices and work your way up, is a pretty well-proven formula that I think we'll see take off exponentially in the next few months and in the next few years. As technology advances, so will people, but we have to meet them where they are and push the envelope a little bit.
Rafaela, you want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing we say all the time, is make sure that you create your libraries of 3D assets and experiences, so that when you have an opportunity to either create a marketing activation, or you want to bring now your digital products into a specific audience or platform, you are able to do that. And if you are more of a consumer brand, then the high fidelity nature of those assets, in our opinion, is extremely important, because then you can strike that emotional chord that you need to strike to be able to get them to perform an action.
All right, Travis?
Yeah, I mean, echo all of that. And even without Rafaela or Tony being on the call, I would, same thing I tell all my students and advise everybody, which is just become more familiar with these incredible toolkits that you have at your fingertips right now with what Epic offers and what Unity offers. And just try it, just give it a shot and enter the space, because it reminds me of so many other major trends over the history of time, developing websites or applications or social media. This is the metaverse, XR, NFTs. This is just another one of those moments in time that you just have to explore and participate and try. And, from my perspective, I've failed before in creating experiences in games that nobody cared about. And you just have to, give it a shot, do it, and learn as you go. I mean, these planes are being built while they're in flight, essentially.
Hey man, if you're not failing, you're not trying. Eric, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I feel like, so I believe the metaverse is here, and I think it's best sort of envisioned as kind of a digital archipelago, I guess, in that it's a bunch of different islands right now, and it's hard to go from one to the next. The metaverse of, say, Minecraft or Roblox, those are very different worlds, and the metaverse of Horizon and and you get into NFTs and all this stuff. These are all sort of different worlds attracting sort of different users or use cases. And as someone that has to create them and guide brands and guide stakeholders into them, you have to know each one. You have to know their use cases, why they're useful or not useful, what the audience expectations are. When you build in Roblox, a very specific demographic is in Roblox, and that's very different from, say, Fortnite. And so what I always do is start with kind of an onboarding session, usually with the stakeholders, because a lot of executives at these companies, these brands, they know they need to play in this world, play in the metaverse, but they don't actually know what that means or what the user expectations are. And so training them on that and getting them in the game or in the headset, getting to play with AR and training your stakeholders to imagine their brand in that space is key. And so they really have to play with the technologies. And the technologies are so magical now, so prevalent and ubiquitous. There's no reason that these executives shouldn't be in headset or playing with AR constantly. And so I'm a big advocate of just get them in the experience.
Totally agree. Tony, last minute in closing.
Oh, thanks for giving me the last word. How did that work out? Appreciate that, Billy. Look, agree with all the other panelists. I would say a few things. Looking forward just a few years, everything's going to have a digital twin, from the smallest product to the largest, most complex smart city. More and more of these things may start even as pure virtual things that then get reified in the real world. Our fascination with engine technology and creation tools, like we got to get past that. That stuff all just works. There's companies like ours that make it work. The big challenges going forward are going to be the management of all of this huge amount of content that is coming, and classic problems that we've been experiencing in the digital world for decades now. The management of that content and distribution and discovery around that. That's what's all going to tie this all together to help people succeed and interact, eventually connect all these islands in the archipelago. And that's an exciting set of challenges in front of us. So all the stuff that the last 4 years we've been talking about these panels on together collectively, that's all in the rearview mirror now. It's all working. Like you were saying, Billy, in the kickoff, it's all here. So now the new challenges that we're facing get more and more interesting, but the payoff is going to be incredible.
Thank you. Thank you all. Every time that I talk to you guys, I feel like I could do an hour with each one of you and try to pick your brain on all of the amazing experiences and knowledge that you have. So I'm very grateful for spending this time with you. I hope that everyone found this session informative. There is a lot to learn and a lot of opportunity in the metaverse and XR and VR. Feel free to look at our different websites and our postings and Twitter and other social media. We're all happy. You'll be surprised how quickly we answer questions. If you have a question and you're wondering how to participate in XR in the metaverse, send a tweet and one of us will surely reply, if not more than one. Thank you all. You have a great day. A pleasure to be here. And thank you to Victor Harwood for providing us this opportunity to share everything that we know about XR, AR in the metaverse. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you. Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you, Victor.